Howdy y'all, welcome back to Lives. I think it's time to play a little Better Than Wolves. Alright. I know this hasn't... Oh man, I don't know. Is it too late in the day? I think it's too late in the day. It's too late in the day to feed him now. Dang it. I was gonna try and get in here and get him fed. Alright, well we'll give that grass another day, I guess. How are you guys doing over here? You got plenty. You got no food. No, you got food. Okay. I didn't see it floating there, but there is some doggy food in there. So let's go ahead, I guess, and, I've got 17 torches left. I've got plenty of coal. I've got, oh, look at that. I've got a whole stack of shafts. Boop. Bam. I think it might be time to head down to look for some more diamonds today. See what we can find. While I wait for it to get daytime so I can feed those chickens. Sliding down through here. Oh. Looks like I've recently been down here. But not down in here. Alright. Where did I leave off in here? Nope, not there. Like we're about here then. How high up does this go? Gonna, I guess, dig upwards here and do a path up a little higher. Let's see, how high up are we here? 1, 2, 3. So if I do one more. Oh no, that's just 4. I was thinking that was 5 for some reason. That's just 4. So yeah, this seems like a good spot then. I don't understand. I don't think you can hear it, but they have the music up so loud upstairs for no reason. It's crazy. Oh no, you know what? This is 5, because I'm 2, and there's one above my head, and then 2 more. I should go up 1 more, just to make it even. Dang dirt, I'm trying to dig here. Yeah, I don't know, man. I never find any diamonds down here. I just like to find some diamonds. I'd like to get some chickens fed, too. I wanted to see how they do with the new, more open pen. Although, I feel like I said, I probably maybe need to let it regrow a little bit. It does seem slightly, chewed up out there. And, you know, things might be better if I let the grass grow before I start putting a strain on the area. I think maybe I am gonna have to expand the farm out a little bit more. I really don't feel like that's enough room for the number of chickens I've got if I'm gonna be heavily feeding them. I miss the old days. Uh, I had a really fun setup at one point in earlier versions of Better Than Wolves, where I had everything indoors, and I'll admit the cows probably needed some tweaking to require food of some kind because they did not require any food. But you know, it should have been a little more realistic. Um, it it bothers me a little bit when some of the things are like, this is like this because it's more real, and then you got other nonsense that's not real, and I'm just like, yeah, because you know, in real life, I haven't grown up on a dairy farm. I'm well aware of you know, you feed your cows like twice a day, and for us, they got one bucket. I don't know how big the bucket was. Maybe a 2 gallon bucket of grain, and then each cow would get what's called a bat of hay, and uh, that hay bale in the small square, I guess rectangle kind that we baled in. When it was put together, uh, I I guess if you've never seen how a bale of hay is made, um, basically you've got, I mean, hay is just grass, right? So you got your I mean, okay, it's not just grass, all right. No need to be pedantic. Um, but it's, you know, green stuff, and so it chops up, and then you sometimes you rake it into rows. Um, Usually you rake it into rows, and then you bring through your baler. And what the baler does is it's got tines, you know, like pointy, like a pitchfork tine. It's the pointy bit sticking out the front. It's got a whole bunch of those little fingers that reach out and um, pick the hay up off the ground, and um, then there's a big fork, this huge machine fork that takes that hay and this is where I end? Yes, this is where I end. Okay. So they take that big. Oh, dang it! I landed right in the fire. Um, the fire has got to come out of there, right? And so what you end up with is this big fork. Then grabs that hay that's being picked up and pushes it into the hay bale form, basically. And then the string wraps around it as it's being pushed in there. So every time that fork goes through and pushes more hay in, it creates like another segment within the bale itself, and so that's called a bat. Well, at least we call it a bat. And so when you cut the strings on the bale, it doesn't, you know, it's not a bunch of loose hay at that point. It's compressed, and each compressed section we call the bat. I assume they're called bats. I don't know. That's just what we call it, a bat of hay. And so you take those and then pull it apart, and maybe a bat would feed 1 or 2 cows. Um, and you know, so I'd have to go up in the mow and throw down hay from up in the mow, hay bales from up in the mow. Um, so you know, I would think that it would be a little more realistic if you had to like have food for your cows. I mean, I can also see letting the cows free range, sure, like they are now. But it would also be nice if there was an option to be able to feed your animals indoors. Okay, I have not played the other version of Better Than Wolves, the community edition. Maybe that's in there. I don't know. I haven't looked at it. I haven't played it. I've only played this version, and but to me it would have been more interesting had there been more thought gone into how you feed the animals. And like chickens are very similar in that they don't really wander around most of the time like that. You just scatter some food for them. I'll admit, didn't raise a lot of chickens, but people who did, usually you keep them inside of some kind of cage. It's not that big because wild predators will come and eat them, and so you don't want your chickens just wandering around loose. Otherwise, you won't have any chickens. I mean, even where I live, it'd be what, foxes, raccoons, coyotes, possums, snakes, um, cats, uh, maybe a bear. We don't really have a lot of bears around here, but sometimes. Uh, Weasels, skunks. I'm just trying to think of anything that would eat chickens or chicken eggs. But yeah, so you can't just let them free range. They'll die. And then that kind of defeats the purpose. And you can't free range your cows here where I live because there isn't that much room. So they basically just wander around their pen doing whatever it is cows do. As far as I can tell, cows are a lot like having a dog. They need some space to wander around a bit, but most of the time they're pretty lazy. They're content just to stand there and chew. Uh, More interesting facts about cows. Yeah, cows have got multiple stomachs, as you may have learned, and so they eat and then they bring it back up and then they chew it some more, and they do that over and over. It's weird. Chew their cud. Meanwhile, in this game, I've got to have more room for my chickens than I do for my cows. Admittedly, I have 35 chickens and 4 cows, but 35 chickens aren't even enough to make up 1 cow. Cows are big. Cows are car-sized. We had a we had a bull for our cows that was over 2,000 pounds. So they can get very large. I did not appreciate the giant bull, for sure. 2,000 pounds is very big for a milk cow. They're usually not that big. But he was extremely large. And I didn't appreciate how he liked to use me to scratch his head. And when I say use me, I mean when you go in front of him to feed him and the other animals with him, he would sometimes push you against the wall so he could scratch his head up and down against you. There wasn't a whole lot you could do about it. uh, he also liked to do this thing. So, because bulls are very dangerous, very dangerous. He had a nose ring, and and then in the nose ring was also a chain to make it easier to get a hold of if he was, being crazy. No diamonds. No nothing. That was a terrible tunnel. Um, but he would do this thing where he would go out and he'd want someone to come out and scratch his head. And so what he would do is he would go up to the electric fence, and then he would spin that chain so it would get on the electric fence, and then sit there and make noises until someone would come out to unhook the chain from the electric fence, which meant that he would get scratched on the head. He was also kind of blue in color. Which is kind of interestingly unique for cows. I haven't seen a whole lot of blue cows. Called him Blue Boy. That was his name. I can't remember if it was his mother or his father was also that color of blue. It was interesting. Okay, you guys all got fed. You got fed. You got fed. You got fed. You got fed. All these guys wandered out here now. Fed, 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 fed. Fed, fed. Fed. I have 35 chickens and I had 64. That should end with 29 food? Yeah? I did not end with 29 food. Maybe I didn't have 35 chickens like I thought. I have 31 chickens? That's weird. Nope. 32 chickens. I keep hitting shift to run. I've been playing too many other games. Nope. That's 34 chickens. There's... Oh, wait. These guys are eating again. I'm just gonna do it to make sure. Dirty chickens. Cheating me out of food. Okay, now I just gotta remember to be back up here for daytime. So I can be sure to get those eggs. I need you to come with me. Right, the wrong thing came with me. Alright, we should be able to get another tunnel down before it's chicken time again. Tell you what, I do not miss being on the dairy farm. Too much work. I prefer the work of the brain to the work of the body. Oh man. Although I did like driving tractors. That was definitely fun. But this time of year right now, oh man, this time of year right now, on the farm that I lived on, I guess the farm that my parents owned at the time, we would be doing hay. And if we weren't doing hay, then I'd probably be working for another farmer doing hay for him. And that's how I made some money. And hey, maybe the worst thing. That's not true. Hay is maybe third on the list of things I never want to do again. Uh, I also worked for another farmer on occasion, and he was a crop farmer. And so for him, some crops are um, planted in a way that makes it difficult to deal with weeds and things. That because you don't usually want to put. Okay, I know they talk about pesticides and herbicides all the time, but some of that stuff doesn't really get rid of some of the stuff that grows in your fields. And so while there is a big difference between a field that got sprayed and a field that hasn't, even fields that are sprayed still get weeds. And some crops that are planted also grow too close together. And so this time of year, all the way up through August, honestly, end of August, we would be outside walking up and down rows of crops with hose, the gardening utensil. And depending on what we were doing at the time, I have uh, what's it called? I've culled, I guess you called that. That's not what he called it. I don't remember what he called it. But basically, you go through and you chop out like every third plant. Um, and then, but it has to be done by hand because there's no way to do that with the tractors and stuff because you'd run down your plants. And then, um, we also did the way garlic grows has to be worked on by hand, which man just leaves you smelling of garlic. And I don't mean a little bit of garlic. I mean like the most garlic smell you've ever smelled, just constantly wafting off of you. Um, so we worked on that, and then one year, I think the second year I worked for him, his weed sprayer broke, and we ended up having to manually hoe an entire field. Oh, that was the worst. You couldn't keep ahead of it. There were like eight of us, I think, and so you'd get stationed every other row, and so you'd be responsible for the two rows around you, trying to weed out and save his bean crops that he didn't somehow realize his sprayer wasn't working. I don't know. Uh, Still would rather do that than the time that I worked for a bricklayer. That was hands down the worst job I've ever had. Um, might just be what my job was and the time of year, but it was not cool. Uh, I hated it. I hated it so much. Um, I don't remember why I worked for him because it had some. I think one of his crew members was gone or in the hospital or something, and he was a neighbor, and he paid well, ish. But woo, having to work on that kind of stuff in the winter. Uh, so he had a job, like he was a big time deal. So I say big time deal. He wasn't a big time deal. He worked for he owned his own company, but they had a job doing the bricklaying for a housing development, and so uh, it was a big job, and so they you think there might be some below? Nope. Think there might be some lava down below. And so the when I started working, uh, the weekend the weekend before I started working, like I came in on a Monday, and I actually rode with him to the site. And dude, it was like a 2 hour drive to get to the site, and so we had to leave at like 4 in the morning, and we wouldn't get home until like 10 at night. And so the weekend before, when they shut down for the weekend, one of his guys left the hose on, and so my first day getting there, it was winter, and like everything's frozen, covered in snow, and the subdivision, or the housing project, whatever you want to call it, we were working on, had like big 2-story homes, and they were on hills, and so the front part of the home, the front part of the home was the first floor was even, the front part was even with the ground, and then when you went out the back, the full basement would open up into the back, and so there was a pretty steep hill going down both sides of the house, and so of course, one of his guys left the hose on because you need water to get mortar, to make mortar, that goes in between the bricks, and he'd left the hose on, and oh man, we gotta get back here soon. And so I might should just run this back and not finish this right now because I want to make sure to get these eggs. And I don't trust myself to remember. And so the water had flooded down both sides of the house. Luckily, it didn't go in the house, but it flooded down both sides of the house. And so the backyard where they were working at the time for that particular house, and the house next to it, was just completely turned into a big ice skating rink, basically. And so the bricks, when they're delivered, are placed on the ground, and so now the bricks are frozen into the ground, and uh, and then the sand where he had left the hose on also got all wet and froze solid, and so what ended up happening was the heaters that he had to warm you up while you were working outside uh, had to be put on the sand so they could thaw out the sand so they could make mortar, because mortar is made with water and sand and cement mix, basically. And oh man, so we had no heat. Everything was frozen, and so my job was to go around and with a hammer try to break loose all the brick pallets that were frozen into the ground. Man, I did that for 2 weeks, but before we moved on to a different place, and then like the first weekend, the second weekend that I was there, the same guy who left the water on uh, brought one of his friends out to the site while the I wasn't there, but the boss man, he uh he wasn't there, so I didn't go in that day because I rode with him, and since he wasn't going, I didn't go. And so um because I didn't actually work for him, right? This was like I'm in high school and I go out and help. Luckily, it only lasted 3 weeks because he was so mad that he told me he wasn't coming in for a month. Uh, and that dude brought in one of his friends while the boss man wasn't there, and they screwed up an entire 2 walls of this house, putting the bricks down wrong, and so for my last 3 days, all they had me do was they got a tool. Okay, I got 32 eggs. So I have 32 chickens. Oh, I should have brought food out too. I could have fed him. Well, I'll feed him here in a second. Anyways, and so they got a tool that you use to scrape the extra mortar from between the bricks after the mortar starts to set. And so that became my job, was to go around and scrape extra mortar out, um, and then once the bricks got a little drier, I would go around with damp rag and wash the mortar off the bricks themselves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the biggest chicken amount I've had in here, I think. As long as they don't get stupid, we should get some feathers out of these guys. That'll be nice. That guy was so mad because then he had to do my job. Let me tell you what. Making mortar out front of the house, which is where the sand was delivered, and then filling a wheelbarrow full of mortar, and then trying to bring that mortar to the back of the house, down the steep, frozen, slippery, muddy, sometimes hill. Not my idea of a good time. And so it didn't hurt my feelings when the guy who I was subbing for came back. Even though it paid alright-ish, I hated it. I've never hated a job as much as I hated that job. I think it would have been okay if everything hadn't have been frozen. I mean, not okay. I still wouldn't have liked it, but I don't think I would have hated it as much as I do if everything hadn't have been frozen solid. Yeah, I'm missing somebody. There we go. Alright, so I have 32. That's 32 feed. Ready to go for next time. Alright, with that, be better than the small things, lean the light. I will talk to you later.